Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, it's a very important area of the studies of the occult sciences, manifesting sciences, to understand what energies we're using. Well, I've been talking about recently more of the scientific ways, how we explain things. Of course, society loves to do this. They like to explain the unexplainable with a lot of things that are plausible, that are theoretical, but never really have any answers. So, there's one problem that everybody falls into in the manifesting sciences is they want to try and cater to the losers, regular science, or this horribly failed society that we live in. Does anything work out? Can it work out? Are there solutions? Well, the problem is there is. They're simple, they're easy, and most of them are inexpensive to apply. So you're living in an outdoor insane asylum. So what do you do about that? But we're trying to figure out, as manifesting scientists, well, we beat the system and we evolve out of this insane asylum. It's not only a prison, it's an insane asylum. And this, of course, is nothing new. Every generation comes along thinking, well, it's different. It wasn't like this. It's new. Well, it really isn't. The basic understandings of what I speak about is pure Gnosticism. This is what the Gnostic says, that we got these evil, rotten gods that are messing with us. We live in a hell. Well, I don't see, it's just common sense. This is not philosophical understanding. This is a statement of fact. And of course, everything I put in. So, what is the importance? So I've dealt with the scientific things. Let's get into more interesting things. Things that are answerable. Now, I've already told everybody how the universe works and what energies, in terms of the Schmiantist view of things, are. And I'm not even sure that has much value. My reality is all based in what works. I don't really have to understand it, but I think other people do, and I think there has to be a kind of giant picture that people understand. Well, how does this work on a scientific? Well, I've talked about that with occultons and psions. These are proven, by the way, unlike theoretical science and quantum stupid physics, which have achieved nothing. I recently just listened to a actual noted physicist, theoretical physicist, and he was laying out exactly what he found in the last, what's been the recent breakthroughs in the last 100 years. Zero, they know nothing, nothing is new. They're still going back 500 years for their understandings to Newton of what's going on. Thank you, science. It's unbelievable. So we'll write all these great experiments, the trillions spent on these boobs. We'll write that all on everybody's tombstones because you got no place. Thanks for not helping. Yeah, I guess science was wrong. I'm dead. So the whole idea is that all of this, and then you have people who are still living in the brainwashed world of thinking that medical science is going to help us live hundreds of years, going to solve our problems. Yeah, unbelievable. So you got to understand this, and you do have to take it with a sense of humor. You're living in an open-air insane asylum. If you understand that, life is not. And, this isn't negative. Oh, yeah, talking negative. I had one guy emailed me saying, well, I didn't really want to listen to it because it was negative. It's not negative. It's factual. Now, you are putting negative on it. Now, if I tell you, don't go over here, you're walking into a fire. Oh, you're negative, man. Oh, I'm going to go wherever I want. Go ahead, dude. Let's watch you turn into a matchstick. So the whole idea is this is the reality of what's going on. So reality is reality. What we have is, it ain't Disneyland. It ain't fairy tales. Pigs don't talk. What's going on? I saw a duck talk and a mouse talk at Disneyland. I mean, this is ridiculous. And to feed this claptrap garbage to children is putting them in a horrible situation. But, apparently, we live in fantasies all the time. You need to know that as well. And there's nothing negative or positive. It's a fact. If you're going to teach people a fantasy and have them base and give their life to it, otherwise known as religion, well, where are we going from there, baby? We're going no place but down, 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 wow. So here we go to all these goofbally things. Well, but let's get back to something a little more potent and serious, because as manifesting scientists, we want to make things work. We want to put ourselves in control in our own life, and we want to master this realm and have them indirectly and directly serve us. Now, one of the big questions that came out here and still is baffling. Now, the scientific stuff is going to prove us nothing. I've laid all that out, and I'll put it in a little bookie for the pseudo-intellectual. It's so fascinating. Let's have a cognac and sit in front of the fire, and we'll talk about my ignorance that I went to 16 years of school to get. And, of course, the school is still patting me on the bottom because I'm an ignoramus. Oh, isn't that nice? I will make money from theoretical belief systems. Ooh. Think about it, people. It's hilarious. So the point is that when we get down to everything, what are real energies and what are they and what's happening? Now, there's a big confusion going on here, and there really are two types. I broke this down in my basic sorcery course. What type of energies out there? And the different types that we tap into, and these are all made of the same stuff. I mean, basically it gets down to occultons to a degree. Well, not to a degree, they do, but it's still different. Everything is made of matter, but, there's liquid matter, there's solid matter, there's gaseous matter. So this is where things get complicated. Now, what really manifests out there? Now, the people that achieve great things tend to be people that have or have trained themselves. And a lot of it, of course, nobody wants to train themselves. You want to be a great football player and kick the soccer ball or fall. Yes, I do. So the whole idea, or hit the baseball if you're an American. I want to hit the ball. So, okay. Well, show up here and we'll start practicing. What? I want to hit the ball. Practice? What is that? Well, I'm just like everybody else. I don't like it. That's why I try and make everything fun. If it's not fun and you can't get cool results right away, which is what all these kind of things that I post about, these classic old vintage training tools, fun. And it should be fun. Life is too short to sit there and concentrate in a book. And those people who excel in those areas are pretty smart to begin with. So they're not really doing anything more than just getting information from a book. They're not studying or trying to learn. They get it. They're just trying to get the facts to regurgitate on a test. Puke it up so that the teacher likes it. Your puke is special. So the whole idea is that this is exactly what we need to understand. So the bottom line is that there are several groups of empowered people out there using different traditions and techniques. Now, let's go to the people who seem to have, and it's in different areas, and it's very hard to figure out. So, the bottom line, if that you're a powerful voodoo man living in some voodoo land, eating that day consistently, having a couple of wives, and having a clean hut is fantastic. It's like someone here marrying a trophy girl and living in Malibu. So, but you look at it as a Westerner, that ain't much. So this is one of the problems. But we do know there are spirit entities, demigods of sorts. I don't believe they're gods. Powerful, nasty, primitive spirits that have been fed over thousands of years that will get things for you. And they expect, usually, a blood sacrifice. Now, this is another touchy issue, which is very interesting. But, we kill things all the time, whether it's a fly or an ant or getting your burger, which people think somehow comes from the back of the supermarket, as most people think. I just heard a top vegetarian who was praising how she loved In-N-Out burgers. For all of you people on the Westy Coast and who've ever made it there, this is the Grail of Burger Town, and I've eaten them hundreds of times, and damn, they are good. People love them. And they have a line in front of their, and this is a chain, In-N-Out Burger, from the minute they open to the minute they close, 16 hours later. But, and they are delicious, but I don't eat meat anymore. But we kill things all the time. Just as simple as that. So the whole idea is that while higher energetic for achieving more empowerment, generally for yourself, means that you should eat energetic foods. But it's more than that. You're not going to be a vegetarian and have power. Matter of fact, you're probably going to be weak. And if you're going to be a fighter, and you're coming into trouble, well, it's probably a good idea to chomp down on a few burgers. But the point is, because you need death energies, killing energies. We live in that environment, but if we want to transcend it, we certainly get away from it. Of course, there's lots of things that have huge amounts of protein that are good for you. Nuts are very good, very high in calories, but that's because they're loaded with healing oils that we need, which are heavy in calories. But without diversing there, as I always do, excuse me, these things are irrefutable and powerful. They're also extremely good at killing people because that's what these societies are very base level. It's hard to make money, but there's always a jerk that needs a bit of killing. So the whole idea is that this is it. Now, what is this energy? Now, this is spirit energy. Then there are those who claim to do great things with their plain psychic ability. Well, the bottom line is that your psychic ability, or what people think are brain-based, but really isn't, you're still a channel that brings that in to activate certain areas in your consciousness. Now, the bottom line with all that stuff is that you are extremely limited, and psychic powers that some people apparently that are extremely strong is very difficult to develop, yet you can. You can develop psychic powers just like you can develop spirit contact. And this all is still doing the protocols that I've set out. If you want to do anything, you need to have control of your mind, otherwise known as centering, and you need to start pumping some psychic lead. Pump iron. You need psychic iron. Pump that psychic iron, because that's going to allow you to contact all the internal, external, and spirit energies. Now, we get down to the fact of what's the most powerful entities out there. Well, it all comes down to the fact, and we're not entirely sure that these things are what they are. And basically, if you want to look to entities that can do everything and have all sorts of powers that we like, telepathy, controlling matter, flying around, all the things we'd love to do, influencing people, basically comes down to extraterrestrials. Now, are they spirits? Are they physical? Now, this has always been a discussion. We're still talking about a traditional extraterrestrial as a physical entity that has evolved way past the human race by literally millions of years. Per the scientists, we are 2 billion to 1 billion years newer than the rest of the universe. Well, that's kind of a long period of time. And of course we'd never be able to survive that long, but if the planet Earth had 1 billion years head start on everybody, we would be able to do what they do. What's also interesting about these entities is the more you learn about them, the more human they are. They have emotions, they have families. Well, of course, this makes sense. There also are a huge amount of machines they send out, and these are the ones I've had contact with. I've only had a contact with a small group of extraterrestrial, but the ones that I was involved with who were abducting people were basically cyborgs. But they had the ability to float, to be non-physical, to stop the effects of firearms. All of this, which, sounds great to us stupid humans, but is something that's probably kindergarten to any advanced species. The other thing is are spirits? Who formed everything? Who made all the religions? Well, I am more and more convinced that all of this fictional reality that everybody lives in, including all the gods and everything else, well, how would you go to, I'm Fred, I'm from planet Zargon, I'm going to give you information. What? Get the hell out of here. Now, if we change this, I am the great Osiris. I am the gods of all gods. I come here to man and give you this. Ooh, yes, can I build a temple? Can I worship you? Who do I have to kill to make you happy? This is how it works. So I'm convinced, and this is probably one of the most important lectures you're ever going to listen to, is that all these empowered energies are there for people who can get past the common. Now, do you want to empower everybody? No. Why would you possibly do that? So you set up priesthoods, and does that filter the right? Well, unfortunately, that don't work too much as well because people get stuck. But you set up filterings. So if you want to be empowered, well, you're going to have to learn the system. You're going to have to think different. You're going to have to act different, and this will empower you. That's called magic, radionics. All the things happen. So you have to learn the system. You have to invest in it. You're just not saying, hey, line up here, get your shot for empowerment. Over here, telekinesis. Over here, levitation. Is that what you want to do? What's the point of living? People have to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture, if you have God powers, why the hell are you here? Just like people that want to sell you the lotto numbers. Really? Well, why do you need my $10? Just win the lotto. I want to help you. Well, you can help me by winning the lotto and then giving me lots of money. It doesn't make sense. But nobody does anything sensical. You grow up in a comic book world with comic book gods. You believe in silly things from the Easter Bunny to Santa Claus, who somehow is supposed to force him down chimneys, which is the absurdity of all absurdities. But how are people supposed to enter your house without breaking your window? I guess Santa Claus could be the breaking and entering clause. Wait for the 24th, Christmas Eve, and he'll break your window and come in with packages. So, really. So you can see how the ridiculousness. But this is what we grow up with, including talking animals and all the other nonsense that we look at, which are just absurd of all absurds. So as we go through all of this, we need to understand that. So what do you do in a more sophisticated fashion? You set up magical systems. You put in the gene pool. Some people get empowered. Why are they naturally psychic? Well, this is a way of trying to take the average mucky-muck and giving them some abilities. And of course, they're totally confused because they're looking for Santa Claus to be able to empower them. They're unbalanced people. They still believe in silly religions. They're in families that don't support them. What a nightmare. But, it's part of the bigger mix. The bigger picture is, will someone who is stressed out or been alienated by society be able to find these other groups? Well, amazingly, people have been able to do that, whether it was from mail order, going to events, or other things. The internet is just a giant townhouse now. It allows you to meet a lot of different quacks, weirdos, freaks, and get information, but it's overwhelming and full of deceivers, liars, and just plain ignorant people. So I don't know if it's better or not, but it certainly gives you that opportunity. And certainly if you connect with a group like you're listening to this, you're able to get a ton of information that would take you literally 10 or 20 years if you physically had to go to meetings and so forth, which nobody does. So as we get involved in all these things, we need to quite understand that. So all of this is part and parcel of what's going on. So we need to understand that that's how things work. So you're going to set up all these systems, and a lot of these systems were not necessarily set up religions. Now, the ignorant lower level people turn everything into, it's the Egyptian religion. No, it's an Egyptian practical empowerment system. But you're not going to get the guy next door to do that. I'm going to pray. I need a God that does nothing and doesn't help me, and I can worship because I'm a little weasel. So this is what you get. So others transcend that into magical empowered orders. People take that to the extreme, and then they think, I've connected to this energy, now I'm a god, otherwise known as Satanism. Now, I'm special, I'm above everybody else, and I'm going to dominate with a low consciousness. And this is how you get the dark paths, the left-hand path that happen out of these systems. Because people then want to run area. Well, what's new? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the old cliche goes. And this is pretty true. You're suppressed, you get some power, and then you become a maniac, and the more power you have, the more maniacal you become. We can see this with militaries, government, police departments. They're not growing over the hundreds of years that these institutions have been together into more balance. They're becoming more and more corrupt because they get away with it. That's the human nature. That's part of the traps out there. So this is how things are set up. Now, who set all this up? Some god? Well, most likely advanced civilization set this up. The whole concept of God or somebody doing something is asinine. Makes no sense whatsoever. And quite frankly, if you were a god, you would throw the manure on the ground and the seeds in on top of the manure. And this, of course, would then be suffice. And you would move on. Would you really want to bother doing anything? It's just absurd. Why would you do that? But other societies who have reached levels where they can play, or maybe they have better intentions, would start setting this up as a societal base. Maybe, quote, these informational energetic fields, which create high levels of intelligence, would affect different species, to put that. So you could put these thought forms, these energy informations, into these realities of a species of a planet where they can tap into. And of course there are the physical remains of that as well, but you don't want to make it easy and straightforward. What does that do? You go out and teach the average person a bunch of good stuff, and he turns it into poo. So you have to go through these systems, and it's difficult and near impossible to figure your way. But that's the game, whether you like it or not. So it comes down to, what are these things? What are gods? What are spirits? What are these energies? Well, and who empowers and controls them? Well, when we get down into the higher workings, which seem to be done by what seems to be intelligent energies, now psychic powers is a little bit different. You're sending out what is a pure informational energetic way to change people's minds or to perceive things. Now, we don't know if you're being empowered by a spirit or God form from this. And God form is the correct thing. It just means somebody who's all powerful or has extreme abilities. That's what a God form is. We don't really know where that comes from. And it's something that we need to spend more time on, working with spirits and other things, which I don't have not pushed in the past, but something we need to do. One of the things that almost all cultures do, and certainly was even done in early Christianity, is the drawing in of ancestor worship. I mean, these are spirits which we know are real and alive and can help you if they want to. It depends if you have a family that is worth a shit. Most don't. So the whole idea is that we have all these things going that we have to take into consideration. Now, famous parapsychologist Barry Taft, who's been interviewed, and you can find him online, has written a book. He worked for UCLA. He read a couple. He wrote The Entity, I believe is the name of the film, and has been involved in Hollywood type things, being from Los Angeles, and kind of has not done too much for the general public or released too many things, even though he has written a book which is quite fascinating, which I highly recommend. Check the link below. Barry Taft, who is retired now and worked at UCLA and, as I said, in Hollywood, University of Southern California. Of Los Angeles, I should say. So, he's done a lot of research in this area. He's had a lot of contact with what we could consider wealthy, high-up people, including, I don't know if they're better or worse, movie executives. These are people that, and of course Hollywood is very hypocritical, but they tend to be more hippy-dippy. But they're not hippy-dippy when you really get down. But that's another story. But the point is that they're open to these things, and of course California has always been seen as the land of the fruits and the nuts. So the whole idea is that's not really But he's done research into this. People came to him. He became known in the Hollywood industry and in Southern California in general. And as he said, he hasn't written much or done much. He did work at UCLA and for the government and all the usual stuff that happened at that time of the golden years of psychic research, and was in on that until, like all these universities, they close things down and becomes military projects because they're basically too successful. So the whole idea is that he had a lot of different stories, and people were thinking that these kind of apparitions and things going through their homes, etc., or contacting them and doing all sorts of pretty negative things. It's just coming into your reality as another entity is just very spooky. Now, he also did a lot of research into entities, etc., but it came down to get to the punchline here, is that are these things spirits? Are they entities in terms of from this plane? Or is everything, as his general conclusion is, extraterrestrial in nature? These are aliens. Now, we know that aliens work like spirits. They go through walls. They even glow white, as the tall whites popped around, went through walls, did all the things they had to, flow around. Well, they were acting very much and even looked like it because of their glowing white appearance, like ghosts. So I will break down in other lectures these areas yet again. This is very, very important to understand, because what do you study? What do you get involved in? And then, IGOS continues to evolve because there's just so much information out there. I need at least 3 more lifetimes to put all the pieces together into a really powerful system. We are doing this right now with our ultimate system, which will take number of years really to get together, but we should be working on that and having something come out soon. A lot of this will be done to get it out faster in a CD fashion with minor written information to follow it up. So, but here's a guy who studied this for years, got in contact, and he states in an interview on the Jeffrey No Proof Allowed Mishlove show how he believes and how a top executive for a TV network was being, and we hear about this. Why not go to the president? Well, we don't know who's being. Here's a top executive for a TV network that was constantly being harassed by what appeared to be extraterrestrials. So they're not going to talk about it like Joe Blow has nothing to lose. You come out and say, yes, I'm the head of NBC, and I have aliens visiting me. Well, flush. There goes your whole life, and your money, your career, and everything else. Now, they would talk to a person like this, because he's a specialist, and they're traumatized. Who's going to keep confidentiality? So this is the problem. So the point is that how much, and to get to the punchline yet again, how much activity out there is connected to, directly or indirectly, with direct extraterrestrial physical entities as we know them coming here in ships. Now, they may act like spirits, and I have seen this. They'll float through walls. They'll pull people with them. They can do all this. That doesn't mean they're spirits. It means they've evolved into the pure understanding of the universe, meaning that everything is energetic. It comes from the energetic and creates the physical. So, your energy, you create physical. So it means that you don't have to make yourself a physical entity that can't go through walls. You can make yourself into energy that can do anything. But ultimately, you live in a physical reality. You're not living as a ghost. You're living as a physical entity. And this seems to be the case. And the more investigations we do into the way extraterrestrials work, and what I personally observed, all of this seems to be true. So, if you're a great voodoo man calling on whatever local spirit there, is that some sort of spirit that has been manufactured, created, or is directly some sort of extraterrestrial. Now, there may be these spirits that hang around, and you may think they're nasty. They get off on it. Is there any difference between an extraterrestrial and a human? No. And this is coming out to be true as well. They have emotions, they have families, so they want to be king of this tribe. So, and this is another thing. We somehow think that intelligence or advanced science tends to make you better. Well, what we've really found through history is the people with the advanced abilities tend to be the more corrupt. And they certainly aren't reaching any higher levels of evolution or spirituality in general. Basically, we've had religion for 4,000 years, and people are worse today than they've ever been. Plain and simple. So you need to reset that. There's some fantasy that's been programmed into you that, as things get better and we're more sophisticated, how are we treating people better? We have super rich people that use you, that parasite off of you, destroy you, murder your families, torture you to death, just so they can have some new Pirellis on their Mercedes. They don't give a damn about you, and there's a billion after you. So we need to understand all this. So where are all these energies coming from? Now, how do people become empowered? Well, most likely, yet again, if you're psychically strong or have a particular DNA or something's happened within your mind, that channel that you are has been filled with empowerment, well, where did that come from? Even physically, that DNA could have come from advanced species. Now, you have to understand you have no concept. Just like people who want to talk about religion and God, how can you even conceive what God is? I mean, it's such an advanced thing for such a cockroach reality that we live in. The human cockroach species, the cunning, murderous species that Homo sapiens are. Because they're not smart, they're not powerful, they're actually weak, and this weakness breeds more corruption. So, they have to constantly keep thinking about ways of surviving that are so corrupt because they're so weak. Look at the human species. And I'll talk about this in other lectures as well. But the bottom line is that you need to fully understand that. So where does this come from? Where is this? I mean, the human or Homo sapien species, which basically is still the missing link. And the missing link is the fact that, yes, there were primitive Homo sapiens, ape-like creatures, that then all of a sudden became Homo sapiens. Well, there's a missing link, and we know what the missing link is that someone stepped in to mess with the primitive, and may do this throughout the universe. And if they lived for thousands of years or even immortal, so what if they planted you 200,000 years ago or 1,000,000 years ago? Who cares? They'll come back on their test routes again. Well, let's check out these guys that I dropped a little poo on 1,000,000 years ago. So all of these things are what we have to take into consideration, have to seriously take into consideration. This is a reality that we have to look at. And the more I read about extraterrestrials, the more this makes sense. Now, what do we do about this? And while we're trying to tap into Yumagumu from the ancient tribe of Africa, that culturally works well for those people and they're able to connect with because they live there, they're part of the vibration. Well, it's not going to happen very well. Yet, there seems to be no direct contacts with trying to access the empowerments of the ultimate system, which is tapping into what we do know are advanced species that can do everything, which are extraterrestrials. So, all of these things. Now, we do know that, and we'll go into a lot of this as well in other lectures, but, people who die, you can contact with. It's been proven. It's been proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, by the way, for over 150 years, of course, that reincarnation is real. That you can talk to the passing, your relatives, etc. But, there's always little gaps. They're not overly helpful in day-to-day things because this would upset the apple cart. Here's the lotto numbers. Well, what if everybody died in there? Hey, Aunt Martha, give me the lotto numbers. Uncle Bill, well, lotto wouldn't be any value. You're upsetting the apple cart. You're changing the whole system. Just as if you become too empowerment, you become a god. Why are you staying here? So it's as simple as that. You make $1 million, you still live in the ghetto? Yeah, I'm living in this one-bedroom apartment driving an old Pinto. Yeah, I got $50 million in the bank. Are you insane? So give it to me, you stay here. So the bottom line is that this is what exactly happens. So we need to understand this. So there's a lot of complicated things here to kind of polish the edges off of what appears to be rough, but isn't. Now, we've been moving into this area of extraterrestrial contact for some time. We've made a beacon to draw extraterrestrials in and try and filter this. We are starting a line of what are considered MECTEC, energy, materializing energy cells, the MECTEC, to contact these. Now, these entities, we know, have the abilities to do all sorts of things, including open up your psychic powers and make you into a superhuman. Will they do it? Will they help you? Well, the bottom line is just like with magic and gods and everything else, there doesn't seem to be too much really strong manifestations. Gods don't come and help you. Jewish people who had their communities, their entire societies were destroyed twice. Once by Byzantine, and the other ones, or was that the Persians, and of course Rome, doesn't matter, they were destroyed. Well, where was their great gods? How come their society? And they never got back on their feet. And of course, the country of Israel is not really maintained by God, it's maintained by machine guns and American power. So, you can't say that God made them. So we need to understand that. So the whole idea is doing this to get kind of supernatural results from has happened to many people. I mean, the list of people who say they've been empowered by what they consider extraterrestrial contact is as long as your arm. The PK Man, Uri Geller. Now, these are people who have proven they have power, regardless of how odd, strange, or whatever they are. And the list just goes on and on. What is the universal idea there? They were all had UFO sightings. All the major military remote viewers talk about their UFO experiences. How are people contacted? Well, if you go through a near-death experience, extraterrestrials can get deep within you easier. Very interesting. So, it all comes back to the same thing. Now, your psychic empowerments are very limited. Yes, the brain can do anything supposedly, and we want to equate that, but we don't know if those abilities are coming from the brain or not. I tend to think it's not. First of all, you're just a channel, and if it's just psychic and based, well, where is it coming from? I don't believe that at all because there's no way of controlling it. The point is, everybody says the brain can do anything. Well, let's see it. You can't make it happen. Certain people can do certain things. Well, they have the same brain as you, don't they? And when people get brain damage or hit their heads or something happens. Well, this apparently a physical change in the structure of that material is producing something which makes the issue confusing as well. But is it really a physical change, or is it creating an energetic change from that physical changing? And that's what's really happening. So this is what we have to look at in terms of. So we here at IGOS, we are going to be moving heavily into all these extraterrestrial contacts. We consider most of these to be pretty safe. Generally, as with magic and calling on spirits, generally they either help or nothing happens. Now, there are cases and demons possessing people to drain them dry, which basically could be nothing more than extraterrestrial vampire spirits. Again, you don't reach a high level and everybody is good. It's all marshmallows and cupcakes because we're sophisticated. No, it's not. You got the psychos everywhere. You've got corrupt people. They have emotions. They have families. They're greedy. It's all the same thing. So, you're going to get demonic things that just, hey, I'll help you, baby. Yeah, I'll just take everything you got and drain you dry. So this is something that happens with everything, but this is generally rare. The as with magic and psychic practices and everything else, well, there's always negative things that happen occasionally. And of course, there are demonic entities that have terrorized people, as there are people who are being abducted all the time. This is a percentage of what happens out there, but a lot of that's not even controllable. But if you have a properly made mech-tech amulet, we screen these negativities out of the process. So it's extremely unlikely that these would ever work for you negatively. Generally, with everything, and people have done this for years. Well, I tried magic, don't work for me. I tried this, it doesn't work. I tried, of course, they're not really training themselves well. They want instantaneous results. Go, give me the bat, I want to hit a home run. Well, you're going to have to spend hours practicing batting if you want to hit home runs. Hit a golf ball, hit a tennis ball, kick a soccer ball. Point is that these people spend hours and hours, and they spend probably 70% of their life practicing, 10 to 15% playing, and the rest of it is just kind of existing so you can do the other two things. So the whole idea is that people have to understand that it's no different with psychic and magical empowerment, whether you're using radionic consciousness machines or doing some straightforward magical practice. So the whole idea is we're going to put together these, make contacts that people can work, and there'll be a whole system of extraterrestrial contact empowerment. And we're working on this right now. We've tried this already. We've had a minor tool that I put out a year or so ago that was to just kind of take care of the general need. We have expensive systems to pull things in, but we also want to come up with some relatively medium-priced amulets that people can start collecting. And you're going to find some extraterrestrial groups want to work with you and some don't. And we don't have a reason why. Why is one person cured by a spirit and another one dies? So all of these things are the unknowable, and there may be karmic, your connections, your basic traditional background, wherever it is. I mean, you've got a lot of blockages that you create yourself. So we don't know if you can pull, oh yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, you don't really want to do that. Internally, you're a programmed religious boob, and you reject it. It's all satanic. Where does it come from? If it don't come from Jesus, it's from the devil. Now, I've heard this 100 times. So, maybe Jesus should do something, and then we wouldn't have to look other places. The mythical Jesus does nothing like the mythical Yahweh, the mythical Mohammed, the mythical whatever, Buddha. All of these people are mythical. There's really no proof anybody existed, even Mohammed. We're not really sure if there was one. So all of this stuff is the same old story. But you don't bother with that. You go out and do it and find out what you can connect to. This is the stream of vote. Does that mean I can stop centering now, Thor? That's kind of a pain. I don't have to do no occult gym stuff? Wrong. I'm afraid you still have to heighten your senses to be able to bring in this. And entities or spirits or extraterrestrials contact people that are highly evolved and who they can contact easily. Are you really going to try and contact a church minister when you can contact a person who's working on their psychic abilities? Well, you're going to be able to enter people and communicate with them better if they're open. So you would have to go to someone who's religious and appear to them as a religious figure, which is probably what happens as well. So if you're involved in something, they are well aware of the fact that the only way they're going to get to you is, well, I'm going to come back, I'm going to show myself as a saint to you. I'm going to, like so many apparitions apparently, they come as female saints, because people are open to females, including females who like other females to communicate with, and of course males who are attracted to that. So a lot of apparitions tend to be these, Mother Mary, some sort of female. So this is how they're going to appear to give information. Of course, it makes sense. You can't help anybody unless they're open to what you're telling them. Get it? So this is all part of the entire situation that you have to understand. So this whole issue is something that people should spend time researching. I'd recommend that people read every book on extraterrestrials they can get their hands on. Try and identify cultures. Try and start connecting with, on a deep level, everything extraterrestrial. There are tens of thousands of books on this. Do not take them as fact. These are giant guides for the bigger picture. We will then come in with more energetic, materializing, energetic cells, which is what MechTech is, that connect you to that particular energy, which is that particular extraterrestrial group. And there are hundreds of them. And you will then be able to use these as contact points, which are very important. Just sitting there without having an empowered contact tool trying to psychically connect usually gets you very poor results and is dangerous. You don't know what entity you're picking up out there. Using MechTech gives you a safe way, and also you're going to get a strong connection because we specifically empower them in very unique ways, using not only images and shape vibrations, but we now incorporate in all MechTech very powerful radionic numbers, symbols, and empowerments. These have been proven to be very effective. Now the point is that what works for you and what works for me is going to be different. There isn't anything that works for everybody, and while a certain extraterrestrial group may help you, they don't help me. And this is the understanding when you get into high levels of empowerment, is that everybody is different, and there isn't some make magic, meaning, well, you do this and the extraterrestrial will help you because you told them to. Well, this is never the case. And everything is individualistic. Now, you come into certain practices, you open yourself up, you're empowered to a certain level. And of course, that's what we stress to begin with the centering and the occult gym practices. But past that is what works for you. You got a whole head full of stuff. If you're from India, it's probably unlikely that you're going to grasp more Western understanding. You're probably going to get more into that cultural understanding. After all, you've been brought up into it. You know, you have blood from that area because you've eaten the foods that have those energies. You have a long history of your family that goes back with that kind of energy. So you're going to connect better to that. It's just logical. Now, can you connect to other things because you feel attracted? Well, of course you can. But in the bigger picture, everyone has to understand that, and everybody's going to have to experiment and find out what works for them. There is nothing that works 100% for anybody. And if it did, these would be super, super expensive because you're basically getting a guaranteed empowerment tool, and who would want to give this away inexpensively? So the whole idea, but as far as I know, there are none of this, and I keep seeking this and never finding it. So we need to understand that of what's going on in general. So that's what we have to look at. What are spirits? Is there a spirit? Is this a God form? Or has this God form been created by extraterrestrials because that's the only way they can work? Do you really want to think they want to set up schools and teach stupid humans who all they do is butcher, murder, screw, and vomit? This is the human race. They're horrific. Do you really want to do you want to spend your entire life coming from another civilization? Well, I mean, this is very inefficient ways of doing things. And of course, everything we do is inefficient. Yet you set up as astral schools. Well, here it is. The person who's smart enough to get there gets the benefits. People that we implant DNA in, well, you get it whether you like it or not. These are all the things that are happening. Of course, this just seems to, at this time of thinking, seems to be very, very practical. And ultimately the universe is practical. People are not going to come, God's going to work in your life. Well, it seems to me that's a stupid way. Don't you have better things to do? And of course, we can see so-called gods don't do anything. And we're in a world of horrible corruptness that just keeps going on and on and on. Nobody escapes the reality of it. And religion has done nothing for anybody. I've never met anybody involved in any religion that had any credibility whatsoever. They're corrupt sexual deviants, greedy scumbuckets. Churches are notorious money grabbers. The ministers, priests, and rabbis are people who usually have sexual misconduct, and it goes on and on. This is the norm. Now, well, yeah, there's a few, yeah, we know there's always a good guy somewhere. I just can't quite ever seem to find them. So the whole idea is that this is the reality we have to look at. So this is a great key that everybody who is involved and listening to my lectures should be spending time on. And I expect to shift over into these areas dramatically. We're looking for faster, quicker keys of empowerment. Now, we already have a system out there that you should be working, centering. Occult Gym, using occult tools. I've recently put up numerous things that are 20 to 50 years old that we're building people's powers. You got to get these things. You got to use our tools so that you build these things. Don't worry about studying techniques. The techniques you'll manifest just by having a powerful psyche that is centered. From there, you have to tap into super energies. And it ain't Superman, it ain't Spider-Man, it's your friendly neighborhood extraterrestrial. Until next time.